Welcome to Be Continued. We're your host. I'm Christian.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Riley.
And this weekend today we're doing our reactions to what happened this past weekend. Riley, congratulations. I'd like to point out the fact that I'm the only undefeated person left on our predictions. Caleb's 11-1.
There should be an asterisk.
Riley's 6-6.
There should be an asterisk.
Why should there be an asterisk?
Because had we known that the 49ers were going to play with no quarterback, it would have been a different pick.
No quarterback or D-line. Their
Seems a
D-line
little
kind of
unfair.
wasn't there.
Ooh, that D-line. I'll say this.
I mean, the defense played pretty well considering that their offense just constantly gave the ball back.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, the run game, the Eagles' run game was able to kind of just, like, take over. I'm pretty sure all their touchdowns came from rushing touchdowns. So, like...
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were kind of able to just take over. The pass game, obviously, we talked about it. The pass game was really not there. Jalen Hurts didn't look great passing the ball. But the run game really led the team to win and actually take the win over the 49ers.
Even that wasn't phenomenal, though. I mean, they ran for over 100 yards, but not by a lot. Like they didn't run them for 250 like the Rams did the Cowboys that year.
True.
When C.J. Anderson just went berserk.
The run game, I mean, the Eagles got runs when they needed them, but they really never needed them. I mean, the game was never close, especially after Purdy's UCL injury. Hopefully it's not torn, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing for me about that game was like every time the 49ers got the ball, it seemed like they were in great field position. Like how many times did they get the ball like inside of the 40s? Like it was a lot of times they had great field position and then they couldn't do anything because they had – why is Josh Johnson on an NFL roster? Like no disrespect to the dude, but he should be the third quarterback on the roster. He should be the one that's like walking around with the practice squad, like break glass in case of emergencies. Like he should not be next in line to play quarterback ever. You got Cam Newton on the sideline doing nothing. You got Blake. I mean, no, Bortles retired, but like I bet if somebody called him with an attempt to like an offer to play, I bet he'd come play.
They could have had Baker.
Yeah, they allegedly had no interest in Baker. Like I think they actually did have interest in him. I think that was just they wanted to pretend like they didn't, just hoping that no one would take him. And so honestly, the Rams might have knocked the 49ers out of the playoffs by taking Baker Mayfield. Think about that. Like if the 49ers could have gone to Baker Mayfield in that game, they would have had such a better shot than when they had to go to
Well,
Josh
they said
Johnson.
Jimmy G was this close to playing.
The one thing, he was really close to playing, but the one thing, Johnson was also, he's on the team to be like the trainer, the training quarterback that plays with plays with people that they sign and whatever.
Well, they signed him after Garoppolo got hurt in Miami. So the one thing with him is he's never been really good. I mean, he only has one win in 9 starts.
He's never been any good.
And then you have the fact that nobody thought Purdy was going to get hurt.
Nope.
Even though the Niners have been notorious for quarterback injuries.
Josh Johnson is an old Bryce Perkins. And if you watch the Rams play,
God, Lord.
you understand what I mean by Bryce Perkins.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I think, and another thing about this game, and this is really just both games, honestly, I think the NFL went into this weekend, they wanted Eagles-Chiefs. I think that because there were a lot of calls made that were, I mean, like, they're legitimate fouls. So, like, at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain about, like, a foul's a foul. A penalty's a penalty. And it is what it is. You can't complain a lot if you're doing the dumb things. But a lot of things that don't usually get called got called. And they seemingly not only one-sided, but they were kind of leaned one way in both of the games. Like they gave the 49ers the Chiefs 7 tries at that 1 third down.
Oh my jeez!
And then ended up giving them the first down anyway. But like I was trying to watch that Eagles game, and they just kept like putting these like kind of ticky-tack penalties on the 49ers. When like guys, they're struggling enough. They're down like past their third string quarterback. They're past even Josh Johnson. Like they're to the point that they really should have put Christian McCaffrey in at quarterback, and it would have given him a better chance to win.
Wait, so here's the thing that I don't think was discussed enough. Why is CMC the emergency quarterback? You know Juan Jennings, the wide receiver? He was the 4th ranked quarterback in his high school class when he was coming out. You'd think maybe they'd let him be the emergency quarterback because at least he played the position before.
Yeah, well, you remember that other who's that guy like Hilton or something that played? He was on the Broncos and he had to play quarterback that
Kendall
week because
Hilton.
everybody had COVID.
Hilton. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, so maybe that's why. But there were a couple times when Debo was like trying to run those like receiver like those end arounds, and I was like, it looked like he was thinking about throwing. He should have just thrown because those end arounds were going nowhere.
Yeah, it was a really good game played by the Eagles defense, but it was also I think Bosa was also playing hurt because I think he hurt himself before the game or last week or something. Somebody took him out on the sidelines.
Yeah, it looked like he got hurt last week. Remember that there was that play where he came up limping. Obviously, you're not going to cry about it. You're going to play in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
But
It's just like
then
Lane,
you got cheap
just
shot
like
on
Lane
the
Johnson.
sideline.
Just like Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson was playing with a groin injury against the 49ers.
Yeah.
He said he's just going to have to suck it up and play.
Well, once Nick Bosa got cheap shotted on the sideline on a play he wasn't even in on, I mean, it pretty much took him out the game.
But
I mean, the Eagles knew what they were doing.
yeah, I think. Honestly, I don't know what to think about that game from the Eagles' perspective, because it feels to me like. It feels like when they won the number 1 seed, they got an automatic bye to the Super Bowl, and like it's not their fault. You play who's in front of you. You play who you play against. Like you can't change the schedule. But they played the Giants, who I never thought were good anyway, and who got there because they beat a Minnesota Viking team that also was not very good, and they beat them pretty convincingly. And then the Eagles just like annihilated the Giants. And then they played the 49ers, and like I honestly, like my biggest thing about that game is I feel like we got robbed of a great game. I would have loved to have seen the Eagles' best and the 49ers' best go at it, because I think we would have seen like a
Low-scoring game.
it would have been
like
a
a
21-18 game, something like that. But instead, we got what we got because the Eagles, like they didn't. It's not the Eagles' fault. Like it was the 49ers should have had a third quarterback, I guess, or whatever.
Or fourth.
But, yeah, I mean, but you never expect your healthy 23-year-old or however old Purdy is to get hurt like that, and then.
Now here's the
is
thing.
that the first time we've ever seen an entire quarterback roster go out for a team?
I don't know.
Playoff
I'm gonna
game,
guess
probably.
I'd assume.
Because that was when Johnson got hurt too. I was like, what are they going to do now? And then Purdy came back.
Now
in.
here's something I think needs to be said. I think this is pretty obvious. I don't think I've ever seen a roster as talented as the Eagles from front to bottom. I mean, they don't have a weakness. Like your only weakness right now on the team is Hurts, and that's because he's injured. He's injured. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no
Say
weakness.
he's their weakness.
He's their weakest link, and he's a good quarterback. He was in the MVP conversation. They don't have a weak link. They don't have a. When you look at the roster, you're like, oh, there's the weakness. They don't have one. I can't think of one. The secondary, great. Linebacker core. They might not have a big name in there, but Kazir White and T.J. Edwards, they've been fantastic this year. Defensive line, they go 8 deep, and they're all good. And then offensive, the offensive line's best in the league. Running back room, Sanders is. I'm actually going to say a hot take here. Sanders is the second best running back in that room. I think Gainwell should be the starter. I love watching him run. But they have a great running back room. Receiver core, arguably the best in the league. They got arguably a top 5 tight end in the game. And a quarterback, he's arguably the best dual threat quarterback outside of Lamar Jackson.
I think what the Eagles are is the place where I disagree with you is you say they're great at everything. I think they're good at everything. I think they're good at every position, but I don't think they're great. Like they don't have they're the opposite of the Rams, right? The Rams are built with just like the superstar, the best of the best. Like Donald's the best defensive lineman in football, or at least he was. Right now, it looks like Chris Jones has taken that thing. I said what I said.
No.
If you watched that game last night, he was the best player on the
Can
field.
you name an offensive lineman that was going to block him? Name one starting offensive lineman?
Thank you. Karras, the center who's been their starter all
He
season
won't even
long.
start above Bruce Allen
I mean, he's starting for the Bengals.
because he's the backup.
They won 10 games in a row.
They lost their 3 starting offensive linemen. We'll get to that game.
Okay,
We'll
so
get to that game.
okay, whatever. I mean,
Chris Jones is not
so the Rams had the best defensive lineman in football.
best linebacker, arguably.
Yeah, probably the best linebacker.
Outside
probably the best corner. Yeah, he didn't have the best year, but I'd still say he's the best.
I say that's because of scheme.
Yeah, I think he gets embarrassed or he looks bad sometimes because of the scheme he's in. And then they've got one of the best quarterbacks. They've got the best wide receiver. That's not even a hot take. Cooper Kupp's the best receiver in football.
Yes, agreed.
Not close.
Go ahead. Sell the nation on Raheem Morris to Indianapolis.
And Raheem Morris, they've got the best defensive coordinator you could possibly ask for. And he is going to make one heck of a head coach for somebody.
Indianapolis, hey, get your guy. Get your guy.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Eagles are the opposite of that. Like, I don't think they have... Like who do they have that you would say is like elite? Like you're looking at as like the top of the league, like the best in the league.
Hassan Reddick.
So you'd say Hassan Reddick is the best in the league.
Is
he better than
the only
Nick
one that
Bosa?
Nick Bosa is the only one.
Is he better than Joey Bosa?
Yes.
Is he better than Myles Garrett?
Yes.
Is he better than T.J. Watt?
Yes, he's better than Micah Parsons. He's better than anybody you can name.
Okay, you're
Except
just
Nick
talking crazy.
Hassan Reddick had, what was it, 16 and a half, 17
I think
and a half sacks.
the one player that we can say is elite is Darius Slay, and that's only because there's not many elite cornerbacks in the league. There's Jalen Ramsey, there's that White from the Bills, and then there's Darius Slay, and that's really it.
And then the other thing is they're great at
Sauce.
Sauce Gardner. I forgot about him.
Sauce. We all know that.
I don't know. Slay got cooked by Galladay, and Christian said Galladay's horrible. So
how many touchdowns has got?
He's got one on Slay.
He's
got one on Slay
in the last 34 games he's played.
It wasn't it like a thrown by Tyrod Taylor or somebody? Like,
Davis Webb.
Oh yeah, Davis Webb.
Quarterback coach coming out, baby.
Come on now. But yeah, I'd say like the Eagles, but they're good at everything. They are good at everything.
They don't have, like most rosters, you can find like a weakness. And then the other thing the Eagles roster does so well, they can play one of two ways. They can either beat you physical or they can beat you elusiveness. They can go either way at you. It's actually quite impressive, which is why, and everybody's like, Nick Sirianni got robbed of Coach of the Year. No, he wasn't. He didn't have to coach that hard. Now, Howie Roseman deserved Executive of the Year. He crushed, and they still have a top 10 pick.
Yeah, he crushed the draft, and and signing Hassan Reddick was a move right there. And
to a 3-year, $45 million deal.
I mean, that's not cheap. $15 million a year is not cheap for a guy that's played on like 17 different teams. Dude has played on a lot of teams. Do you realize that?
Yeah, he was on the.
He's on the Cardinals. He was on the Panthers.
And now it's on the Eagles.
I think he was somewhere else.
Was it?
Either way,
But he's only 28 still. So he like.
Either way, signing him and having him make the big of a difference that he's made on the team is ridiculous for only $40 million.
Now the other thing I'll say though, maybe this is where I might side with you on this one. Reddick. Let me back this up because maybe he's helped by the talent around him. I mean, he has like 17 and a half sacks, but having pressure come from every other
That's the one thing that I said would change that course of the game is you never know where the rush is coming from because it's always different. And like I watched Sue play. Sue was playing different than Cox was because Cox would try and barrel through. Sue was pushing the offensive lineman out the way and going in.
And now it's time for me to be fair. Because remember when I got on Scott Turner, former Washington Commanders offense coordinator for having a wide receiver block a defensive end? Well, Kyle Shanahan, you had Deebo Samuel block Hassan Reddick on the play that hurt Brock Purdy. I hope you're happy. You got your quarterback killed because you were like, the guy that has 18 sacks on the season. Deebo, you got him right.
I bet if you put Deebo and Reddick in a weight room, Deebo would like fare well.
Yes,
but Deebo doesn't. But not blocking.
Deebo doesn't practice blocking. Yes.
Yeah. That was a shame. It was really a shame what happened to Brock Purdy. Hopefully it's not torn, because if it's torn, that's a career-altering injury.
That's what, isn't it like 15 to 30 month injury recovery time?
I mean...
It's a while.
Well, there's that, but also...
For pitchers, it's like 12 to 18 months usually, and so for a quarterback, it's probably going to be similar because you're throwing constantly.
Yeah, I was going to say...
never had it.
Having that injury, well, yeah, when you watch it, you guys were talking about how the arm was going forward. When you watch it, Reddick gets his hand on the ball, and Purdy's arm falls backward a little bit, and then you can see where it kind of like strains.
Yeah. I still say that wasn't a fumble. I still say his hand goes here.
But the ball when the ball
hand goes here,
ball was knocked out.
He moves like just a bit, then it comes out. Like he moved more than Tom Brady moved. Tuck rule. He moved more than Tom Brady moved.
He's not Tom Brady yet.
Yeah, that's
or he's not Tom Brady ever. Probably.
I hope it's not torn because Brock Purdy is probably one of the better quarterbacks we've seen, given his circumstances.
He's a great story.
He's a great story, and I really thought I was screwed on the pick because I found something out pregame that I didn't know. He went to high school in Arizona. I was like, oh no, this pick might be going. And then he got hurt. I was like, I hate this because I wanted the Niners to win. I was hoping I could jinx the Eagles, but at least I'll stay undefeated.
Yeah, and like the last thing about this game for me is it looks like the Niners defense didn't do well because they gave up 31 points. They played a great game.
They played terrific.
They played as much as they could.
You could just tell when it was 21-7 and they had gotten like a fourth down stop and then the refs threw a flag. Like that was the point where they were like, all right, we're done. And like they just gave up. And you can't fault them. The game was over.
But also, to be fair, their morale was really broken, even without the refs. Watching your first string, second string, and now your third string quarterback, the quarterback who brought you all the way to where you're at, watching them all go down, and then watch your fourth string fumble a perfect snap to give it pretty much the game sealer. I mean, it was earlier in the game, but still, they didn't really come back from that because once he fumbled that, the Eagles got it and scored their touchdown, and then after that, they were up by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns.
No, there's another thing we need to bring up. Travis Kelce brought this thing up on one of his podcast episodes. And after watching that game, I wish it's true. The NFL needs to allow one fight a game. Who wouldn't have loved to watch Trent Williams go against Kayvon Wallace?
Any Eagles fan wouldn't love that because their player would be dead.
It'd be
The one thing that I'm do want to say about it is, what are they going to do with the Eagles players who ended up like throwing punches? Because can you suspend them the game before the Super Bowl when it's not even your fault?
They're not going to get suspended. You know what's going to happen? The NFL is getting ready to make $500,000. The NFL is getting ready.
I think
to
it
get money
depends
in
who
their
it
pockets.
is.
I could see them getting fined. I understand.
Was it
a
any big
fining.
player?
I don't know. I didn't really.
If it's just a bunch of backups, they'll be like, "Oh, you guys aren't playing, or you're fined a lot."
Yeah, I think because it's the game right before the Super Bowl. Trent Williams kind of like started it because he grabbed the dude's neck and threw him on the ground.
Yeah, but if you watch the video, the dude was messing with somebody else, and Trent Williams was like, "Yo, enough, let him go," and he didn't. So then he yanked him up. Not saying it's okay. Like Trent Williams obviously is probably going to get the biggest fine out of
Oh,
it.
he'll definitely get the biggest one. But
I gained respect for Trent Williams again. Come back to Washington.
Did you guys see that video where they gave Greenlaw the 15-yard because it looked like he was just punching the dudes? But he was punching the football. He hit the football every time, like when you zoomed in on it, like he hit the ball. But it looked like he was just punching somebody in the pile. And so they threw you a 15-yard penalty. And those are the type of things that were like, come on, guys.
The Eagle,
let him play.
If I'm the Chiefs, I'm looking at that Niners game plan because they were slowing down that pass game. Now, granted, A.J. Brown should have had a touchdown in this game if Jalen Hurts was feeling all right in the shoulder, but
I mean, well, honestly, the Eagles were saved by some like elite play out of those receivers. Like, the Devontae Smith non-catch that was called a catch, like even just to do what he did was elite. And also, like it was next level to when he was calling everybody up. I was like, "There's no way he caught that ball." Like I knew the way he was reacting, there was no way.
That's a
he caught
Packers.
that
That's
ball.
a Packers type play where you call a no huddle while there's 12 people on the field and you throw the ball.
there's not a lot of receivers that are like with that kind of.
He's a
IQ.
Nick
Is there-
Saban dude. He's an Alabama guy. He's used to winning. He's a winning player.
Did you see-
I told you that draft. I would have taken him number 2 overall. If I was the New York Jets, I would have took him number 2 overall and kept Sam Darnold, and there would have been a much better football team now because of it.
You know
I
what?
knew Zach Wilson was a turd from the second he burst onto the scene. You thought he was going to be elite.
I did
You
not.
threw that throw. Yeah, you thought he was going to be good.
I did
You thought
not.
he was going to be good. I remember that conversation.
No, he did not.
Yeah, you
I'll
thought
go
he was
back.
going
I
to be
said
good.
he
You
was
love
gonna
that
be a
dude.
bust.
No, you love that dude.
I said he was
No,
Johnny
you loved him.
Manziel 2.0.
I think you loved him. Didn't he love him?
I think so.
I remember
did
you
not
loving
love-
him. I remember you loving him.
I love Trey
Great.
Lance, and I feel stupid
Yeah,
about
he
that.
also sucks.
I said
That one we argued about a few times because I knew he was not going to be.
So how about another like hindsight thing?
Segue.
Where do you think the 49ers would be if they had drafted Mac Jones instead of Trey Lance? Because I think Mac Jones is like he's got kind of a bad rap right now.
He would
because
they would have been the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
He has a.
That's who Trey. No,
That's what I'm
That's
thinking.
what Shanahan wanted. Shanahan's like, I don't
He
need
should
a
have
quarterback
done it.
that's going to make plays. I just need a quarterback that's going to run the system.
He fell in love with the athlete.
He didn't fall in love with
You can't do that at the
it was
quarterback
It was
position.
Lynch. Lynch came to him. He was like, "Hey, the media's getting on us because if we don't take this quarterback, Trey Lance, and we take Mac Jones, everyone's gonna be like, why'd you trade up?"
Somebody's going to do it this year too, and we'll talk about it whenever, later on when we get to the NFL draft.
March.
Anthony Richardson is going to get drafted so high, and he's not going to be good. He's not good.
Will Levis will be the one that gets overdrafted.
No, Richardson is like a guy that should be like a 5th-round talent because he's like he needs to sit and learn to play. But somebody's going to develop draft in top 5. I bet.
All right.
Anyway, speaking of top 5 talents,
Jamar Chase, baby, should have been picking number 1 in his draft. He's better than Devontae Smith. I'm sorry, that needs to be said. Did you see that catch
know
he
about
had
that.
over 2 Chiefs? I mean, 4th and 16, and
well, the Chiefs guys, say you're behind me.
they're like me trying to track a
They didn't
softball.
even look. They had him in double coverage. They covered him well, but they didn't even look for the ball. If they turn around, that's a pick.
Yeah.
But they just oh my gosh.
The one
And it's
thing-
the whole game they did it.
The one thing is the Bengals have a couple receivers. They do have a good receiving core.
They do.
But what are the Chiefs going to do for the Eagles receivers with Devontae Smith, AJ Brown? Then they got a whole run game to cover, and they got a tight end to cover. It's
Yeah,
Well, Joe
I mean-
Burrow is better than Jalen Hurts. So.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I think the Bengals have Joe Mixon, and that's kind of like it. Their tight ends okay, but I think he was hurt.
The one thing I'll say with this is the Chiefs do something the Eagles do well, and I want to see how the Eagles respond. Because in the 2 games that it's happened, the Eagles haven't responded very well this season. The Chiefs start the game off very fast, like the Eagles do. And the Eagles, when they get off to the fast start, they're expecting teams to back off. But when teams punch back, is usually when the Eagles kind of struggle. So I'm interested to see what happens. But before we get into these takeaways, I think it's time I finally admit it. I'm done. I can't say it no more. After yesterday, you're ludicrous if you say it. Mahomes is 1. He's 1A. He's 1B. He's 1C. He's number 2. Burrow's behind him, but it's Mahomes here.
He's going to retire as the GOAT.
I think you know what? I saw Cowherd say this, and I might have to agree with him. We didn't wait to claim Jordan was the GOAT. Year 6, year 7, he was already put as GOAT. I think it's time we say it's Mahomes as well. He does that. Does he have a weakness? Like, does Mahomes have a weakness? Is there anything Mahomes doesn't do well?
And you know what else has him set up to be the GOAT? Much like Jordan.
He had a coach.
He had a coach,
And he had talent.
got talent around him.
Oh, Travis
He's
Kelce.
not out there playing by himself. He's got somebody. He's got other people helping him, and he's got a great offensive line, man. Like Eagles' offensive line, I think is number 1. I mean, pass blocking wise, that's Chiefs might be 2.
That GM,
Like-
you got to give him credit. Remember Super Bowl 50?
Actually, Chiefs pass blocking might be 1.
Yeah.
Eagles run blocking is 1, but I think Chiefs pass blocking might be
Remember
1.
Super Bowl 55 versus the Buccaneers? Remember how Tampa destroyed their offensive line from front to bottom? They went into that offseason and said, yeah, that ain't never happening again. Let's go.
They signed one of the best guards in football and traded for one of the best tackles in football.
And then they drafted the center out of
And then they
Oklahoma.
drafted Creed Humphrey,
It's all right, man.
who should be wearing blue and gold. But instead, we got Tutu Atwell. I love you, Tutu.
Then they got Orlando Brown from Baltimore. And then
Yeah.
they got that Trace Smith in the draft.
Yeah.
Like a 4th-round pick. I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
and
they've
then
done
they've
a
got
good
another
job.
steal. And, yeah, you know, I'll let you put your take on Pacheco since you were the one that coined it in the group chat. I'll let you keep that take to yourself. You can say what you wanted to say about him.
He just seems like he runs really hard, but gets taken down by the first guy every time. He just looks like he's running so hard, like, oh, they're going to have a hard time tackling him. Nope, boom, done. Like, he went down
He
so
can
fast.
move, though. I mean, he hits the gap.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
he's running really hard. It seems like he's not that hard to bring down.
he has a lot of speed. Not a
Maybe the
lot of power.
Bengals are just really good at tackling.
You hit the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, they did tackle the quarterback even out of bounds.
Yeah, and I agree with you. What you were saying earlier about the rule change that needs to happen.
Yeah, I watched this twice. It happened on that drive where like the 49ers really just went home basically with Jalen Hurts, where he was running down the sideline and somebody pushed. I forget who it was.
It was Asai, Joseph Asai.
No, I'm talking about the Eagles game.
Oh, it was
Was it Warner or
I think it was Greenlaw.
Greenlaw? One of those guys. That Hurts was running. He took a step out and then they pushed him, and of course 15, automatic 15, always is.
He's the guy that looked like Troy Polamalu.
But like, yeah, that guy. But what do you expect these guys to do when the ball carrier, whether it's a quarterback or running back, whoever, they're going north to south. They're headed up the field and they're going down the sideline. I mean, I kind of feel like there needs to be some type of thing where unless they give themselves, like if they're still moving forward, you're expecting this guy to know like a split-second decision not to touch this guy based on where 1 foot is, or like it needs to be something where like they need to do something exaggerated for it to be a penalty. And I know it looks bad when a guy takes a step off the field, so he's out, and then somebody shoves him and it goes into the bleachers and it's
Should
all a
have been
mess.
full speed.
But yeah, I mean these guys are moving full speed. They're trying to get extra yards, and like I don't know what you expect these guys to do out there.
I don't know. It's just I don't. I mean, I agree with you because I think it's stupid that because the person, even in any game, I've always thought about it. I was like, well, if they're running and the defensive lineman's there, if they don't like threaten to push them out, then the person's just going to keep running.
Right.
So like having to at least give them a little shove and push them out, even if they did step out. Like he doesn't know. He's not looking at his feet either. He's looking at where like his hips or where he's going. He's not looking at his feet. He doesn't know he stepped out. But I mean, it's better than grabbing him just in general and slamming him on the ground.
I mean,
I think Super Bowl wise, I think this is going to be a pretty good Super Bowl because both teams are very talented. So I'm just saving the predictions for the actual prediction video.
I'm
But
saving all the stats and the predictions for all that. I'll just say this. I think one team has the edge roster-wise, but I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, I think the NFL got the matchup they wanted. I think the officiating was pretty bad. I would have loved to have just seen let the teams play. But, I mean, it wouldn't have really mattered for the 49ers.
Tell me if I'm wrong here.
because-
Remember how last year's postseason was a lot of fun? Like every single game seemed close. This postseason's been kind of meh.
Yeah.
But also, that's because almost the entire NFC East was in the postseason, and you also, I'm pretty sure, win a whole divisions in the postseason. It's kind of mid because the teams have already played each other 2 times in the season, so they're just kind of.
Well, usually the third game's the best game. I mean, look at last year. The whole NFC West was in there.
Also,
Yeah, but-
here's the thing about that is the NFC East got the weakest schedule
Yep.
because they were the worst last year.
And now we got the hardest schedule.
I
about
don't
next year.
think that they got that much better.
No.
I think it was just like as a whole, like the whole NFC wasn't good. Like Aaron Rodgers had no receivers for half the season, and even when he did have receivers, they were rookies.
And he had a broken thumb.
Yeah, the Rams played without Matthew Stafford. The Bucks lost some important linemen, and they lost Bruce Arians, which was the most important thing. And so, like, those are three that were like powerhouses just the year before that were just like wiped out because of like one or two things.
That's why I think the only team who would really be where they are right now would be the Eagles, just because of their acquisitions throughout the offseason. The Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders didn't really do much other than get like kind of smaller players.
We got Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I think maybe the Cowboys probably would have been a playoff team, but like
but
just got in.
They're always a playoff team, but they're almost always
They
a
won't
first
be
round
next
exit.
year.
I don't think the Giants were very good.
They weren't. And the Commanders, we were not very good.
Yeah.
Which is why I'll save this for later. But I'm kind of hoping we either suck or are really good next year because I can't do another midseason. I either want to be a good team or I want to be ready to rebuild.
Yeah, I think
Please, Snyder,
I want to hold the cross the fingers for this, but I think next season will be the first time in a while, or actually maybe ever, that we see an NFC East team win the division twice in a row.
It depends what you guys' roster look like. Because
Yeah.
if the Giants build up or the Commanders do something weird or you guys even lose a couple pieces, or heck, maybe Dak Prescott learns to protect the football and throw touchdowns at the same time.
Yeah, but I think the Giants have the most possibility to win the division next year. Yeah, because of the coach, and they have players who can be good. They just
Mediocre quarterback.
yeah.
Wait, can we just bring up the fact that Jerry Jones, you're hilarious. Did you see what he told Mike McCarthy? He wants them to be there as long as Tom Landry was. We're all out here dogging on him like, Mike McCarthy sucks. And Jerry Jones is like, I want you another 26 years.
Yeah.
I'm not a dog. I don't think McCarthy sucks.
But
I don't think that team is that great. I think
it Jerry
they
Jones, like,
overachieved.
80? Yeah.
He won't be there when if 26 years. Is
I think once Jerry Jones, kicks the bucket, I think that the next owner is probably going to get rid of
I'm
McCarthy.
just looking forward to talking about next year's NFC Championship game.
Oh, don't you dare say Rams. Don't you dare
Rams,
say,
Eagles.
oh, my Jesus.
Eagles are going to be back, but it's going to be against the Rams because they're going to be healthy. And you know what? People talk about the Rams like they're like all the F them picks mantra is going to come back to haunt them. No, it's not. They've got like 11 picks in this draft, and the only one they don't have is their first. And then after that, they have every single pick.
Wait,
that's
am I wrong?
theirs.
You guys haven't
Like-
had a first round pick since what, golf?
Jared Goff was
yeah,
their
they
last
haven't had a
first-round
first round pick in like
Now,
5 years,
I
something like
think
that,
it's
6
time
years.
that I also acknowledge one more thing. I want to congratulate both of you because this podcast is going on year 2, and both your teams have made the Super Bowl. My teams haven't even made a playoff.
Well, that's funny because you're the only one out of 3 of us that has jumped teams too, and you can't even
Yeah.
find a Super Bowl winning team.
It's almost like when you run away from them, they get better. So I'm interested to see if the Colts in year 2
Yeah.
without you.
Yeah,
Like,
it
make-
would have
make a
like
jump.
if you
You
stuck with the Eagles.
You heard who the Colts are thinking about hiring, like full time?
Well-
it's not Morris. They're actually thinking about going back to Saturday. Like I'm actually thinking I might have been better off leaving the Colts.
But
I can't go back to the Eagles though.
I mean,
You coulda-
Raheem
yeah, you coulda
Morris is
stuck
a
with the-
great hire if they go that route.
you could have
Great
stuck with the
football
Eagles
coach.
for 2 pretty terrible seasons, but it pays off when they're going back to the Super Bowl 2 years later, 3 years later.
I'm not going.
All
back.
that talk about Howie Roseman.
Sucks. I'm still convinced he has some blackmail on Jeffrey Lurie. I mean, you survived 4 different coaches. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I said in the offseason, I said he had a slam dunk of a draft, and he did. And the Eagles are in a really good
They
spot.
didn't even use Nakobe Dean, and he'll be playing next year. He has to be playing next year.
But like the NFL is such an unpredictable league. Like it looks to us like the Eagles are set up for like another window of like.
But we're talking about this seeing the current Eagles team when next
don't even know
season,
the offseason.
off season, a lot of things can happen, and preseason, our entire defense can get hurt. And you
Remember
don't
this,
even.
it's never good to bring the whole team back. That when you have the previous season, unless you didn't make the playoffs, because the only team that's ever brought back every starter was the Bucks last year, and how'd that work out for him?
And you also don't know like how much longer is Kelsey going to play.
He's probably gonna retire. If they win the Super Bowl, I think he'll retire.
I think
Fletcher
I
Cox.
think he's got more in him. Fletcher Cox, I think, has more in him.
No,
too.
Cox is leaving because you guys don't want to. This is his last year. Cox is leaving in free agency because you guys.
Well, he was already free agent last
Yep.
year. He signed a sweetheart deal because he doesn't want to play anywhere else. So as long as he wants to play, he's going to be an Eagle.
Yeah, he doesn't want to play anywhere else. He only wants. He's
Yeah.
he's drafting the Eagle, and he's gonna. I'm pretty
I
sure he's
can
gonna
see
retire. an
Kelsey
Eagle.
retiring. They've said Lane Johnson's getting really close to wanting to retire.
Well, Lane Johnson's always hurt. He's always
Yeah.
had issues with his ankles,
And then you
feet.
have Brandon Brooks. Remember him and Brandon Brooks were like this, and they helped each other with their anxieties. And then
Brandon Brooks is kind of getting old too.
He
He's been-
retired.
Oh, he did retire.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, he retired last year. That's what I thought. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's getting pretty old, but they did replace him with Mulata, didn't they?
no, they replaced him with Sayamalu. Isaac.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you never know in the NFL. So appreciate it while your team's there, because you never know. Next year they might be 5-11.
Or maybe your owner just goes completely haywire and you play in a crappy stadium, don't have any attendance, and your best player at quarterback's the guy that was in the XFL.
I mean, it's hard for you to complain about the Commanders 2 years ago because you weren't one of their team. Like, you weren't a fan.
You know what?
Next year you can start
Wait.
complaining about the offseason.
You know, can I say this though? I've never been a Redskins fan, but I'm a Commanders fan. The Commanders are only 1 year old, so where's that going for me?
I guess that's fair. It's like me. For hockey, I'm a Kraken fan because they were the newest team, and you can't say I'm a bandwagon.
See? Yeah.
I used to be a New Jersey Devils fan because I like Martin Brodeur.
He's
one of the greatest goalies of all time.
I can never root for them. Anyway,
Yeah,
please subscribe. Until next time.
to be continued.